probably do a little reel on this because I'm so disgusted. So Chris Cuomo, right? Andrew Cuomo's brother, Chris Cuomo, CNN for years. Yeah, so he's like a slightly more palatable Gavin Newsom. He's as polished as you can get, and he's aggressively willing to go out there and say no. And he's on this rehabilitation attempted tour. And I love Patrick Bet-David. Patrick Bet-David hired him for Valuetainment, and so he's working for them now. And he's got his podcast, and he's out there. And they had a debate between him and Dave Smith, libertarian Dave Smith, comic and big figure in the Libertarian Party. And I like Dave. I think he is an authentic guy. I think he gets a bunch of things wrong. I think he certainly gets the Israel-Palestine thing wrong by a lot. But he's a good guy. I truly believe him to be sincere. And that is how I judge people. Like, if you are a huge a-hole, but you're an authentic a-hole, I kind of like you, and you and I can be friends because I know that that's who you are, and I'm down. Okay. So,
as long as you're not a pedophile.
As long as you're not a pedophile, yeah, I don't want you to be that authentic. No, but as long as you are an authentic person, mistakes and all, right, warts and all, because I also, man, I'm not the easiest personality to hang out with sometimes. I'm pretty intense, but I want you to be real. If you're real, I'll show you grace. Show me grace for being the a-hole that I am. Okay, that's how we get along. Chris Cuomo is inauthentic. Chris Cuomo spent all of these years as a total shill mouthpiece for the establishment narrative, for CNN, lied, ridiculed people for not getting the vaccine, shamed people, called ivermectin horse dewormer, just went on and on and on, mocking people and making everybody who didn't go along with the narrative a laughingstock. Shamelessly did this. And then now he's pretending that he was this always reasonable guy. And the other thing that they always say, and he's saying it too, is that the people who said, this is not right, the lockdowns aren't good, they aren't necessary, they're not useful, they're going to do more harm than good, this vaccine it has been rushed and appears to be dangerous, and I don't think that I'm at risk, and all of the stuff that we said where we were right, 100% right, and he was 100% wrong, he says that we got lucky. He was talking to the government experts that were telling him the real stuff, and they all believed it at the time. We were the fools. We just happened to be right. A broken clock is right twice a day. That's what he's trying to do. Well, F that guy. He does not deserve to be rehabilitated. If he wants to come to us, and Dave Smith, God bless him, pressed him and said, why don't you apologize? Apologize for something. Somebody shouted at the audience at one point, I was an asshole. I'm sorry. He wouldn't even do that. He refused to apologize. He acted, maybe we got some things wrong, but that's the best we had at the time. You do not deserve forgiveness, and you're not entitled to forgiveness if you do not ask for forgiveness, if you do not repent. He needed to repent. And what's funny is if he said, yeah, I was a bit of a mouthpiece for those guys, I regret it now. I shouldn't have been all in. My bosses who paid me were telling me that this is what we need to do. If he said that, though,
he would get a lot of respect.
Yeah, he'd probably be much more of a hero. You know what? I feel bad about it now. Yeah. It was wrong. We shouldn't have shamed people. A lot of people turned out to be right. I was wrong. And he'd actually be like, hey, dude, okay, right on. Fine.
Yeah.
But no, he wants to be like, no, I was right all the time as well. I got no, blah, blah, you're wrong.
That's the same thing. The same thing when people have hard times with the Bible. For instance, they say, and I was saying the same thing even a year ago. So if I do some kind of heinous act, I do a crime, then I repent and God forgives me, right?
Right.
Yeah, but the point is you have to repent and be sincere.
Yeah.
So the same thing is Andrew Cuomo has to do if he wants to be forgiven.
Yeah.
Just to repent, say, I'm sorry, but sincerely. That's it.
Yeah.
No one wants him to get on his knees.
No.
To say, I'm sorry, yes.
No, I mean, you don't have to self-flagellate you don't have to do that. You just have to say, hey, I was wrong. I got it wrong. And you can lay out. Look, I was being paid, $10 million a year to speak some nonsense. I feel bad about it now. Okay, all right, dude. I'm sorry. I hurt some people. I caused some destruction. I was a part of this cabal. Okay. We'll judge you whether you're sincere or not. But the chances are him coming back in and being appreciated again.
What about his brother? Same thing. You can go outside, but he goes to a party.
I mean, his brother. I mean, Andrew Cuomo, who was the mayor, right? That
he was the mayor of New York or governor?
I'm sorry. No, he was governor.
Governor.
Yeah, he as governor was responsible for a great number of deaths. That there's a little bit more to it. Let's call Chris, his brother, an apologist for the regime, a furtherer of the narrative, and an accessory towards the suffering and deaths that we saw. He was definitely an accessory to it. I believe the consequences there are different than what we saw with Andrew. Andrew intentionally, under the directives, knowingly put people into old folks' homes with COVID and killed the vulnerable in our society, which I do believe was intentional, by the way. We have all of these unfunded liabilities. We have millions and millions of baby boomers that are going to cost us billions and billions of dollars at the end of their life. And they accelerated a bunch of those deaths and reduced a lot of government funds that were needed to take care of them.
But you have to solve this problem in their way, you have to do one of two things. You either print a lot of money just to pay the boomers, or just just like you've mentioned, do this thing with the boomers. But they did both of them.
Yeah.
They printed a lot of money.
Yeah. It's not good.
Do you think if this happens this year or next year, they can pull it off once again? The people are so dumb.
No, I don't think you could. I think you could. They're setting us up to try. Okay, they keep floating the idea of new viruses and things like that. I don't think the virus thing is going to work again. Right? I think they have to change another tactic. And their big thing is they're going to do lockdowns in a different way. They're going to do the 15-minute cities thing. That's what they want to do. Okay, see, it has to be combined with CBDCs, right? The central bank digital currencies. So that they can restrict your travel via economic means. All of a sudden, you can't fill up your car stops running outside of a certain area. But they want 15-minute cities. They want us to all live in contained communities. That's what the lockdowns were about. Remember, you couldn't go up to your vacation house in Big Bear. They were restricting our travel. Stay home, stay safe. All of that. They'll use the environment this time to do that. Climate change. If we don't do this, our coasts are going to be overrun with water. All of that sort of stuff is what they want to do. And so it'll be a lockdown of another kind. Remember, they're moving towards feudalism, us being the serfs. Us sitting at home on our computers with avatars, being hooked up to the Matrix and, taking drugs. That's their aim. And so that's the next iteration of it.
But do they look through the window? California is June 2nd. It's not that hot at all.
That's climate change. See, climate change works both ways. I don't know if you know this. Any weather that we think isn't the way it should be means that it's climate change. Any anomaly of any kind or any cyclical thing, and then they pin it on conservatives, because what the conservative position, and I'll say my position, okay, but this is most conservatives. They call us a climate change deniers, right? They call you a denier to dismiss you. Okay, I don't deny that climate changes, right? We can walk outside and see that. Climate changes, climate fluctuates. Go to the Natural History Museum, if any natural history museum, but the one I'm remembering is New York, and I saw this red band, blue band. It's like a historical timeline going back, a bazillion years, like they like to do. And I'm not sure I believe in old Earth necessarily, but I'm not also necessarily a young Earth guy.
But they know exactly what the temperature was.
But they show that this was a hot period. This was a cool period. This was a hot period. This was a cool period over many thousands and hundreds of thousands of years. And we do know that they used to grow wine grapes in England. England was a wine growing region in history. We've got historical evidence for it being much, much warmer in areas and much, much cooler in areas, right? And this is before we had the Industrial Revolution, before we were cranking out, all of the CO2, which, by the way, plants need. It's not a poison, okay? So you can acknowledge that the climate ebbs and flows and it changes throughout periods. Okay, we know that to be the case. The sun is the most likely culprit of that, right? Cycles that the sun goes through can make it warmer and hotter. We know that when it is warmer, it's actually better for us. So as we get warmer, we're going to have milder winters and more crop yields and better stuff further north.
That means less people are going to die.
That's right. So it getting warmer is actually quite comfortable for us, and it can get a lot warmer. And they're talking about over hundreds of years. It might get 1 degree warmer. Okay,
Fahrenheit.
Yeah. So they will call, if you say that the climate change industry, okay, the environmental industry is earning a lot of money based on their ideas, and they have completely, huge grants, charitable organizations, NGOs,
new taxes, incentives,
all of tax incentives towards things, solar, all that stuff, and they're making a boatload of money. What I believe it is, and the reason that they double down on the new energy, sustainable energy stuff, is because you move from a very strong oil and gas world, which is very conservative. It's a shift of power. If you can drain them and build the sustainable energy people over here, right? All of them have environmental consequences, by the way, right? Batteries are a tough thing to get rid of. You can move it over there. Now, all of a sudden, we have a shift in the balance of power. So there's a big deal there, and then a lot of people get wealthy along the way. Most of this stuff, just follow the money. They get wealthy.
But if they want to implement this 15 minutes series, they want us to be home to scroll the internet, the social networks, order Uber Eats, order through Amazon. But we already do that.
Yeah, we're already on the way. But remember, they want to restrict more and more, restrict our freedoms. They want to get vehicles off the road. They do not want you to have independence. They do not want you to have liberty. Everything is always about restricting your free movement and your exercise of your religious views and the exercise of your sovereignty. It's always about that.
It's not going to end well. The French Revolution, Russian Revolution, it's not going to end well.
Well, that's why they're terrified. They're terrified of we the people. We the people are rising up. That's what you see at the UFCs. That's what you see when people are taking to the Bronx to go support President Trump. All of that is what we're starting to see.